These are this afternoon's top stories. Hurricane Danny still active, calls for mental health training in St. Lucia, and North Korea on war footing. Good afternoon and welcome to the ZIZ Midday newscast. Today is Friday, 21st August 2015. I'm Carla Berridge. In national news, Hurricane Danny is still alive and kicking, but the U.S. National Hurricane Center says Danny is expected to lose the limited punch it's packing by the weekend, citing the storm's maximum sustained winds decreasing slightly to 80 miles per hour on Thursday night and hurricane force winds extending only about 10 miles from the center. Meanwhile, Met Officer at the St. Kitts Met Office, Rajay Winter, provided this update.
As at 5 a.m. this morning, Friday, August 21st, Hurricane Danny was located about 13.7 north or 47.4 west, or about 900 miles east-southeast of St. Kitts and Nevis. Maximum sustained winds are 85 miles per hour. Its present movement is west-northwest at 10 miles per hour. The minimum central pressure is 987 millibars. There are no watches nor warnings in effect, nor there are coastal watches or warnings in effect for St. Kitts and Nevis. Interests in the Leeward Islands should monitor the progress of Danny.
Several of the island's schools are undergoing repairs in preparation for the start of the 2015-2016 academic school year. Education Minister Honorable Sean Richards said although the present repairs are more in-depth, his government has been upgrading the schools throughout the year.
Yes, we are doing work on some other schools. Newton Ground Primary School is receiving some work. We are doing some minor works at the Virtuals Primary School also, and also at some of the early childhood centers. Additionally, we have some projects planned for some of the other institutions, which will come on stream later in the year.
While there is no work being done on the existing Bastia High School campus, the government this week reiterated plans to construct a new school. According to Minister Richards, by January 2016, the first and second form students and staff will be in a more comfortable setting as the government begins work on a temporary facility.
The government is building some additional hybrid type of buildings, hybrid in that they are a mix between wooden and modular buildings. Yes. These will be used to accommodate the students from first and second form along with the staff in the January school term.
From September to December, the first and second form students and the staff will be housed at the Warner Park Stadium. The theme for the 32nd anniversary of independence in St. Kitts and Nevis, United in Building a Stronger Nation, has resonated with citizens as the Twin Island Federation prepares for a month-long national celebration in September. The theme was released last week after its selection by the Federal Cabinet. The calendar of activities to celebrate Independence 2015 is expected to be released shortly. Chairperson of the Independence 2015 Planning Committee, the Honorable Wendy Phipps, has revealed that several subcommittees are finalizing arrangements for various events, including the State Service, Independence Day Parade, Prime Minister's Independence Lecture Series, youth activities, and the Community Beautification Awards. St. Kitts and Nevis celebrates independence on September 19th. Regionally, Independent Senator Dr. Stephen King insists that the whole approach to dealing with the mentally ill in St. Lucia is deeply flawed. The pathologist contends that professionally trained health personnel must play a key role when responding to the mentally disturbed.
Independent Senator Dr. Stephen King has issued another call for the implementation of proper structures and protocols to deal with the mentally ill. Speaking in the wake of the deadly New Development shooting incident, the healthcare professional believes the current approach is counterproductive. With the absence of professionally trained orderlies, there have been calls for improved training and protocols for the police departments in the detention of mental patients.
I think we put the police in a very invidious position when we ask them to be the sole respondents to a situation. Clearly they have to be a respondent because often security of people or property may be at risk. But having the health personnel as part of the response team, I think would go a long way towards preventing some of the the situations that arise, such as happened in Soufrière.
There have been many instances here of psychotic episodes taking a turn for the worse after police officers who were attempting to subdue mentally unsound individuals resort to lethal force. Dr. King contends the problem should not be treated as a mere law enforcement matter, but a public health issue.
I'm not aware of the details of the situation, so I cannot really comment on the motives that had people to riot. But I understand that the whole situation was essentially a very negative one, and I believe that is because of how we have set up the primary response to the situation of somebody who is mentally ill and is causing a disturbance. I think it's so important that we act in a humane, sensible, scientific manner. So it must be more of a health-directed response than strictly a security response, although the security clearly must be present as well. That's what I think is important.
Public health officials and professionals have been pushing for closer collaboration with the police department in the handling of citizens with mental health issues. Joachim Duplessis, HDS News Force.
Guyana's public security minister, while defending his plans for the security sector, says CCTV cameras can boost crime-fighting efforts. Details in this report.
The public security minister, while defending his plans for the security sector, says CCTV camera can boost crime-fighting efforts. Details in this report.
The opposition wants the security minister Cameron Ramjatan fired, but he's firing back at them, as he outlined government's plans to deal with the crime situation in this country. But Ramjatan said the administration is moving to have closed-circuit cameras all around the city, in addition to more resources for the lawmen, including overseas training. He spoke about a 5-point plan to deal with the crime situation.
It involves enhancing police administration. We need to see the weekly reports as to all serious crimes. We need to identify the high incidence areas for serious crimes so we can target a number of these areas with lots more patrols. The second one has to do with police organization and training, a number of the things I've just mentioned here and so on, in relation to especially our criminal investigation department. It's called a Justice Education Society, this training that is going to last 2 years. I'll come to horse riding, and I will come to dog training. I am going to avoid, however, goats completely.
The minister was the first to admit that it will take some time to reduce the crime situation. He said getting rid of rogue cops within the force is high on his agenda.
When 2 rogue cops got promoted and I tried to get rid of them, we got arguments from the former attorney general that you can't interfere with police service commission and all of that. Do you know what signals we are sending when you have a man that is going to be promoted after he would have burnt the genitalia of a vulnerable kid? And they don't care.
The minister also announced a gun amnesty which will commence on the 1st of September, as the new government plans to remove illegal weapons off the streets. Reporting for Capital News, Lyson Drakes.
Internationally, the Independent UK reports that North Korea's leader Kim Jong-un has put his country on a war footing and threatened indiscriminate strikes against South Korea if it doesn't agree to halt propaganda broadcasts by Saturday evening at 5 p.m.
A war over loudspeakers between North and South Korea. After 11 years of silence, the South has resumed broadcasting anti-Pyongyang messages aimed at the North Korean population from these banks of speakers. North Korean officials gave their neighbours 48 hours to remove them and fired projectiles in the direction of the offensive sounds. In response, the South launched dozens of shells into North Korean territory.
The President's orders were to respond decisively to the North's provocation in order to keep our military fully prepared and at the same time make sure our people are kept safe and protected.
South Korea has also evacuated civilians all along the frontier between the two countries, particularly at Yeoncheon, which is where the North fired projectiles at the speakers. South Korea says that around 2,000 civilians have been moved.
I was at home and I heard a few thumping sounds. A few minutes later, officials came onto the streets and told residents to evacuate to the town shelters. People who had cars took those who were having trouble, along with elderly residents, and we all gathered at the shelter.
Tensions between the two countries have been building since the beginning of the month. This week, South Korea carried out a joint training exercise with the US, with the aim of preparing for a possible nuclear attack from the north.
On-demand news is Asana Greenstreet reports that 2 women have become the first females to complete Army Ranger School in the United States.
An historic moment at the US Army Ranger School after 2 women became the first to wear the tab of a US Army Ranger. Kristen Griest and Shay Haver were the only 2 women to complete the grueling 62-day course, which included parachute jumps, helicopter assault, and swamp survival.
For me, really, I think the swamps, both in Darby and Florida, were just frustrating. You're going through at night, you're either cold or extremely hot, one or the other. And you're walking under night vision for hours on end. You don't know when it's going to end, tripping over things.
Only they and 94 men completed the training, which began with 19 women and 381 men. It was the first time women had been allowed to participate.
And I was skeptical if they could handle it physically. Shay was the only one to volunteer to take that weight. She took the weight off me. She carried it the last half of that ruck. Literally saved me. I probably wouldn't be sitting here right now if it wasn't for Shay.
But the men praised the women for their dependability, and Griest received a special mention for her land navigation skills. The women acknowledged they had initial concerns that their gender might have been an issue for some of their fellow soldiers. Surpassing all doubts, both Griest and Haver said the way to make it through Ranger School is intense physical and mental conditioning.
Taking a look at the weather. The Met Office forecasts partly sunny skies today and fair to partly cloudy skies tonight with very little shower activity. Seas are moderate to locally rough with swells up to 6 feet. Therefore, small craft operators and sea bathers should exercise extreme caution. Meanwhile, temperature is recorded at 82 degrees Fahrenheit. Also, the presence of a high-pressure ridge will maintain a relatively dry and stable atmosphere across most of the eastern Caribbean over the next 24 hours. Therefore, from Hispaniola southwards to Trinidad and Tobago, skies will be partly cloudy in general, with only brief passing showers. That brings us to the end of the ZIZ Midday Newscast. Join us this evening for these stories and more in detail. Thank you for joining us. I'm Carla Barrett.